Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to talk about global liquidity and what that means for Bitcoin as we are seeing this break to new highs, right? We're looking at why this is important for Bitcoin, altcoins, stock market, and everything in between. I'll be back on vacation, back from vacation in 2 days, guys. So the 22nd, I'll be back for live streaming, but sometimes I have an itch to make videos, so I'm back with another video today. So hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Let's go. So let's jump on in. Let's not waste any time. So this is Bitcoin, right? This is the Bitcoin chart, and what you'll see, this blue line is the global liquidity. Okay. Now, what is global liquidity? What is this? This is basically how much money is circulating out there. So if we just click on it real quick, you'll see this is the US money supply, right? The Europe money supply, the China money supply, the Japan money supply, and some other countries in there, right? Some other big countries. So this is basically how much money is out there to be put into markets potentially by basically the big countries, the countries that move markets, right? So why is this important, right? So generally speaking, what we need to see for markets to go up is we need more liquidity coming into the market, right? And it begs the question of, do markets go up because more fiat comes into the circulation or fundamentals? I could argue for Bitcoin, it's a little bit of both. I would argue for stock market, it's because more liquidity comes into the market. But that's besides the point today. We're not going to talk about that too much. Let's look at Bitcoin overlaid over the global liquidity, okay? So what you'll see, right, and we'll find a very, very good pattern when it comes to this, okay? And this is all going to stem back to the last video that we made where all the cycles are the same, right? The cycles are the same. So you haven't watched last video, go check out last cycle, our last video that I made 2 days ago. The cycles are the exact same. So let's look at this. So what you guys notice is you'll see money supply, right, is starting to break into new highs, all right? Now, that is potentially very, very good for risk assets, okay, going into Q4 this year. We talked about last video why I think Q4 is going to be the fun quarter of this year. September could be kind of boring, but this is showing that more liquidity is becoming available for people to put into markets, right? This is, once again, this is the US, Europe, China, Japan, and other countries. So what you'll notice is you'll see that this is breaking into new highs, right? And what you'll notice is, why is this important? Well, if you look at this and we just overlay this over the Bitcoin price, what you'll notice is Bitcoin generally moves up, if we just overlay it, when liquidity goes up, right? So what you'll notice is right here, liquidity hits a low right here back in October of 2022, right? A little bit before the FTX crash. Technically, you could say that that was like kind of the Bitcoin low, and then we had the FTX crash, which dumped us a little bit lower. But you'll notice is global liquidity started to move up, right? And shortly after, that's when Bitcoin started to move up, right? So more liquidity came into markets, Bitcoin started to move up. And then once again, right here, right, you can see global liquidity comes down, hits a low right there back in August of 2023. Global liquidity starts to move up, and what do you know? Bitcoin started to move up, right? And what we kind of like to do when we're in the Bitcoin space and the crypto space is we like to come up with reasons, I don't know, this news event, right? ETF or, forced selling and all these news events that like to move markets. But in reality, if you actually kind of look at the micro moves, a lot of the times the moves are because of money supply, right? How much money is available for investors to put into markets or take out of markets. You can see the last two big moves up that we saw for Bitcoin, right? This first leg was because of money supply going up. The second leg was because of money supply going up, right? And I would add some fundamentals. If you actually look at sometimes Bitcoin moves up without the global liquidity moving up, and sometimes that's fundamental moves. So obviously this move right here that we saw, right? This move up right here, global liquidity did not move up. And that, I think, is largely because the ETF speculation, people getting hyped up for the ETFs. So that's what you call like a fundamental move up when global liquidity doesn't go up. But here's where it gets fun, is when you have the fundamentals for Bitcoin, which are the best that they ever have been, I would argue. And you have global liquidity starting to move up, which we haven't seen since December of of 2023, right? Now we're starting to see that breakout to the upside, right? And obviously you're seeing stock markets cruising up right now, right? Tech stocks, even low cap stocks starting to do well. And that's typically when Bitcoin starts to do well. You're starting to see this breakout, right? And you haven't seen the Bitcoin price really follow just yet, right? It's kind of been lagging a little bit, which has been a little bit frustrating for crypto holders. But sometimes that happens. Now let's go look at previous cycles, right? So obviously we know global liquidity goes down, Bitcoin's in a bear market, global liquidity goes up, Bitcoin's in a bull market, right? The previous cycles were the same, right? And this is where it gets interesting. So let's go look at 2020. And what you'll notice is a very similar thing, right? A very, very similar thing. And we're going to put this all together is, let me get my little circle. Bitcoin hits a peak, global liquidity tops out, right? Global liquidity goes down in the bear, okay? So Bitcoin's in a bear market, global liquidity goes down. Global liquidity hits a low right here, right? Bitcoin hits a low shortly after. Global liquidity starts to move up. Bitcoin starts to move up, right? Very, very, very interesting. So here's what I'll argue is a lot of times Bitcoin moves up because of global liquidity, right? And then obviously Bitcoin moves up. We have this 2019 move down and then COVID crash, right? And you can see global liquidity took a massive hit right here. Bottomed out. Bitcoin bottomed out. Global liquidity went to the moon, right? Money printing, Fugazi money printing. And boom, Bitcoin gets a massive move up, right? So let's just zoom in a little bit here real quick and we'll look at this a little bit deeper. So what you'll notice is global liquidity kind of was like topped out for a long time right here, right? Was topped out right here for a long freaking time, right? You had some little moves above this trend line, but you could see really we didn't start to break out until September 2019. And once this broke out, that was kind of the signal of, okay, we had a little bit lower to go, but that was the time you kind of wanted to get in the markets when global liquidity started to break out. Now, obviously, there was the COVID crash, right? So there's always going to be some reason of why the government prints money, right? We don't know the reason a lot of times, but right here, global liquidity was already moving up. And then COVID just kind of exacerbated that, right? Breakout. Obviously, when this broke out of that previous high from 2018, boom, that was the signal. Bitcoin started to absolutely go nuts when global liquidity started to move up, right? Now, let's go look at the previous cycle. Is that the same, right? And we're going to put this all together. And I'll show you guys a little pattern that's going on from this. Well, look, let me get this all matched up nicely, right? So here we go. Bitcoin tops, global liquidity tops, right? So there's no new money coming into markets. Global liquidity goes into a bear market. Bitcoin continues to go into a bear market. Global liquidity bottoms right here. Okay, now Bitcoin usually lags a little bit, right? Hits a bottom. Bitcoin kind of stays in this little, bottom formation, hits a low, and then starts to move up once again as global liquidity starts to move up, all right? And what you'll notice is if we actually do this and we mark off the highs again, boom, what you'll notice is there's a similar pattern here, okay? Bitcoin kind of stays below this, and then when it breaks the high, you'll notice that Bitcoin's in this long, drawn-out sideways period here, right? But when it breaks the high, you can see that global liquidity moves up, but Bitcoin doesn't move up right away, right? And that's where I think we are right now, is investors are kind of confused. They don't know if global liquidity is going to continue moving up, right? Because we don't know if the Fed's going to cut rates, print money, what the hell is going to go on. But what I'd argue is there's always some reason that they do, right? So 2016, obviously, right, Bitcoin, we break out, Bitcoin goes sideways for like another 2-3 months, and then eventually Bitcoin catches up, all right? And right here, right, comes down, and there's always a reason they print money, right? Every single time. There's a reason that the Fed prints money. So what you'll see is global liquidity breaks out, boom, Bitcoin starts to go nuts. So to bring us back into our current situation, here we are, right? Let's mark this off. Boom. All right. Obviously, we got little moves above, but Bitcoin was below this all this time. And now we started to break out. Okay. And it always comes back to this. When we're down here, we don't think that there's any reason that the money supply would grow. Okay. That countries would start printing money and putting money into circulation. But there it is. They're doing it. And there's always a reason that they do. And what we looked at from other cycles is when this starts to break out, that's when, right, given a few months lag, right, we talked about maybe September's boring, maybe the beginning of October's boring, maybe it's not. That's when Bitcoin starts to do well, is when global liquidity starts to break to the upside, given a little bit of a lag, all right? So I think we're in an interesting spot right now, right? A very, very interesting spot where this is typically when, within a few months, Bitcoin starts to do well. So very interesting, right? Very, very interesting. Now, what does this mean for altcoins, all right? What does this mean for altcoins? Let's go look at altcoins, right? Because we all want to know when altcoins are going to do well. So let's go look at altcoins. Let's take the total three, right? Let's take out Bitcoin and ETH. So it's a similar pattern, right? It's a very, very similar pattern, and it's all a lot of times the same. And what you notice is this is even more true for altcoins, right? Because altcoins are very, very tied to liquidity, right? Altcoins don't move up really because of fundamentals. Altcoins move up because retail investors have more money to spend. Very, very obvious, right? October 2022, boom, global liquidity hits a low, moves up. Altcoins move up with what is it? A few months lag. Right here, global liquidity hits a low right there. Altcoins, right, make a double bottom. Global liquidity starts to move up. And in October 2023, boom, altcoins start to move up. Now, what you'll notice is, what do we have? We have a little bit of a divergence going on right now. Once again, we know global liquidity is breaking into new highs. Okay. But altcoins are kind of lagging a little bit, all right? But what you'll notice is global liquidity is starting to go up. Altcoins are starting to go up, all right? And I think this is where it gets really, really interesting, because we typically know that altcoins don't go parabolic until Bitcoin breaks the all-time high. So what I'm waiting for is we kind of have step number one going on. We have global liquidity breaking to the upside. Typically what we need for altcoins is now we need Bitcoin to go into price discovery. Okay, so if we can get both of those things, Bitcoin into price discovery, which may take a little bit longer as we discussed last video, and global liquidity starts moving, continues to move up, that's typically the success that we see from altcoins. Let's go look at the previous cycle. All right, and one more thing I'll note is there's this higher low structure from global liquidity, right? 1, 2, 3. And on that third touch, right? Obviously, we're seeing this break the highs. What you'll notice is kind of a similar thing last cycle. And last cycle, it was COVID. But we have this, right? Global liquidity can't break out for a long freaking time, right? But then we get a breakout, right? Then we get a breakout right here. And that was that third touch, which was right here, was the COVID crash right there, all right? And that third touch is when really the market started to move up, okay? And then obviously global liquidity is in all-time highs, global liquidity goes up, altcoins go up after that third touch of that trend line right there, just like we're seeing right now. Boom. 1, 2, third touch, right? We just saw like a friggin' massive capitulation for altcoins, right? A lot of them down 70, 80%. Third touch, global liquidity breaks out. And what you'll notice is it's a lot of the same stuff. First low, global liquidity. Second low, right? Obviously, the little second low was weird. This cycle was a little bit different, but obviously we hit a low here, and global liquidity hits a low. So what we want to see now is we just want to see more money come into markets. And we see more money come into markets, that's typically when altcoins do well, right? And altcoins typically don't do well if there's no new money coming into markets. But now we're seeing it break out. We're seeing it break out. So we want to see this continue. And then the second step is we typically want to see Bitcoin get into price discovery to get a little bit of excitement for the crypto market. Because right now there's no excitement for the crypto market, right? We know that there's no excitement for the crypto market. So when it comes to altcoins, this does not mean just throw all your money into the altcoin market, all right? But what this does mean is be on alert, because now you're starting to see investors, hedge funds starting to have a little bit more liquidity out there. And that's kind of the first step. And the second step is getting a little bit of excitement into the crypto market, which is getting Bitcoin into price discovery, which I mean, I still think that August and September can be kind of boring. That's typically, September is usually not a great month for Bitcoin and crypto. So just know that. But as we go into Q4, as we typically see in Q4 of halving years, right? Q4 of 2020 was really, really good. And Q4 of 2016 was really, really good, right? So here we are, global liquidity moving up. And I wanted to make this video because this is one of the weird cycles that we've seen Bitcoin actually hit new highs, right? So Bitcoin actually, let's go back to Bitcoin real quick. Bitcoin, this is the first cycle that we saw that Bitcoin hit new all-time highs without global liquidity breaking into new all-time highs. It was the first one, and I think that has to do with the fundamentals of Bitcoin being so strong. So if you notice these other cycles, right, Bitcoin didn't hit new all-time highs, right here, until global liquidity was way above the previous high, okay? Bitcoin hit all-time highs, global liquidity was way above the previous high, okay? So this is kind of the first cycle that we've seen global liquidity not be way above all-time highs, and Bitcoin hits new highs with global liquidity being at the same point that it was in March of 2022. So you've seen the Bitcoin price be higher while the global liquidity is actually at the same point, which shows that the fundamentals of Bitcoin are so strong. Bitcoin hasn't needed new money to go to new highs. What happens when we get new money coming in and the fundamentals are strong? And that's where I think we're going with BTC over into Q4 this year, okay? So that is pretty much the video today, guys. I think to sum it up, what we need to see now is we just need to see the strength coming into Bitcoin, right? We see it over there in the stock market going nuts. I personally think, and this is what I've said multiple times, is I think we're getting ready for the last leg of this bull market. And I think we have to be getting prepared for what's possibly to come in Q4, maybe early Q1 of next year, which is this scenario where there's this blow off top in markets, and we got to make sure we're ready we're ready to take profits going into Q4 and Q1 of next year. Okay, that's kind of the summary of where I'm looking at right now as we're seeing new money come into the markets. Very, very important, and this ties in a lot to how this cycle, right? Just to kind of go over it one more time, right? Bitcoin cycles just ties into, once again, how this cycle is performing, right? Overlaid over the previous cycle, the exact same as the previous cycles. We're right here, okay? We're seeing global liquidity break out at a very similar time that we did in previous cycles. We're right here. Global liquidity is breaking out. I think we just got to be ready for what's to come in Q4, Q1 of next year, guys. All right. So that's it, right? I'll be back, as like I said, in 2 days for the live stream, and we'll talk a lot about this stuff on the 22nd. So make sure you guys are ready for 2 days. I'm enjoying my break. Just to give you guys a little bit of update, I am enjoying my break. Very refreshing. And I'm ready, man. I'm ready to come back. I usually miss it after a few days. And now it's been, 8 days since I've been gone. And I miss you guys. And I'm ready to come back to some live streaming. And we'll talk about all this stuff, man. I think the markets are getting ready for an exciting period after maybe a little bit more of sideways. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun these next couple months in the markets as the time capitulation slowly dwindles to an end. So I'll see you guys, and maybe I'll make a video tomorrow if I see anything I want to talk about. But other than that, I'll see you guys in 2 days. If you liked the video, like, subscribe if you're new, if there's anyone new out there in these time capitulation markets. And everyone have a fantastic, fantastic day. All right. See you guys.